by opening up some of my handouts. So let's go ahead and open up Revit as well. So if you go to the Start menu, Revit Architecture 2012 is what we want. It may not be in your Start menu yet, and if it's not, then you want to go to All Programs, Architecture, and then make sure that you don't open up Revit Structure. Just want Revit Architecture. You don't want AutoCAD. There's 3 flavors of Revit, but as of 2013, they've now combined them. You pay more for the suite, but it's one Revit 2013 that has the architecture and the MEP and the structural all kind of built into the ribbon tabs coexisting. As of Revit years ago, they just had Revit Building, they used to call it, and then they came out with the Revit Structure, and then they came out with Revit MEP. And so now they've kind of dovetailed them back together for those who pay for the whole suite. But this is just plain Revit Architecture. So there's a few tools in Structure you can't do. There's more tools in MEP that you can't do. But you can do everything you need to do in Architecture. So I'm going to go to the, just to review the network here, we're using the S drive, but you can also get to the S drive on the Windows Explorer here by just clicking My Documents. And that's a shortcut to the S drive. So then you look for the discipline Architecture, and you look for our class, ARC124 H. Smith. And I have student files, and I've created a folder for everybody. And then you're going to save your files here. Now, one thing I really want to stress, and this is on the Blackboard, and I've also downloaded it. This folder I put out here that says Instructor Posted Files, which are ones that I'm going to put out here. I'm going to go ahead and write protect those files. Under reading handouts, there's one that's called USB drive procedures, and this may seem obvious, but bear with me because I see people get stuck in a situation. First of all, it really is important that you have your own USB drive to back up everything that you do here in case you work off campus, or even if you don't, because there have been a few times where, like Morris Fletcher's class, his class folder got moved underneath my class folder, and all their stuff was apparently missing. So occasionally people do very dangerous things to folders here on campus, and they have backups, but it's hard to retrieve them. I don't want to scare you. It doesn't happen very often. But just, and we had sessions in tears at Maryville over these kinds of issues. Nobody's really gotten too worked up about it here, but make a backup when you leave. But what I recommend is don't try to work off of your thumb drive while you're here. Use your USB thumb drive. Once you're done here, plug it in and copy your folder onto your thumb drive after you've closed Revit, and then take it home with you. And if you do have the student version or a version in your office that you work on, plug the drive in and dump it onto your computer, work with it, save it, close it, and then dump it back on your thumb drive. So use the thumb drive, the USB drive, as a backup, and then bring it in and pull the files off of it. Unplug it and put it away, because otherwise you're going to think, oh, wait a minute, I've got 2 copies of the same file open. One from my folder on the network here, one off of my USB drive, and which one am I looking at? And then if you unplug, you might have unplugged the one that you had open, and then you're stuck and you can't save it. So if you read this, it'll make sense as to what I recommend doing. That's out there for your consumption. Going back to the Blackboard for a minute, this home page, if you go back to announcements here, on the announcements page I have this little file naming. The first night we're going to create a Revit file. I'm going to talk about the file types that Revit uses. This is how I want you to name your files. So each week it'll be assignment A, then next week assignment B, then next week assignment C. So you're going to keep a file that has house A, house B, house C. So by the end of the semester, you're going to have a whole bunch of Revit files that have A, B, C, D, E on them. At the end of each assignment, you're going to submit the correct one. Submit A or submit B. Unfortunately, last semester, I had somebody who kept resubmitting house A every week because he never really saved a new copy and named it B and worked on that one. So you're going to have kind of a, it's almost like an in-process series of files of what you did each assignment that you built on. And so by the time you get to assignment N, and then the final assignment each of those Revit files is going to get bigger and bigger. By the way, make sure your thumb drive isn't really tiny, because Revit files in this class may get up to 30 megabytes for one Revit file. It's a far cry from what AutoCAD files are. And normally with AutoCAD you got dozens of them, if not hundreds of them. Revit you don't have nearly as many. But I'm going to talk about the file types and the file formats that Revit does use. And then this path information isn't as critical as it was, because if you open Revit and you say, by the way, this little message, yeah, you can close that message. It's just it means that the graphics card on these machines isn't officially approved, but it'll work just fine. So you can just say close, and it shouldn't bother you with that anymore. But when you go to open or you go to load something, you should have a shortcut over here that says out-of-the-box library and St. Louis Community College Merrimack Library. And if you have those two little shortcuts when you go in to open a file, then you'll hopefully no longer need to read this, because they have trouble getting those shortcuts to show up. But the T drive, remember the S drive is where all your stuff is? The T drive is where I have all the content that I've put out that we're going to use in the class, that you're not going to be able to change, but you'll be able to pull from it. And that's where those shortcuts take you. So the first part of the Blackboard that's important is this announcements page. When I post a quiz, sometimes I'll put an announcement that says this quiz is posted, but it's your responsibility to go to the syllabus, so I'm going to go to next, and read when the quizzes are posted. Try not to miss a quiz. I turn them on every other Friday morning. You can take it in the lab or at home, but again, I recommend taking it somewhere where you can open Revit, and you actually have from Friday through Tuesday night to take the quiz. So you could start the quiz Friday morning in the lab, answer 3 questions, save it, close it, go home and answer the next 4 questions, save it, and then submit it once you've done all 10 questions. But you just don't want to forget to do it. So the place for all that information is under course information on the Blackboard. And I've already downloaded the syllabus, I think, have I? No, let me go ahead and download that to the network here. This syllabus is on an 11 by 17 PDF file. And I'm going to put that under course information on the network here in our class. So I say that. And so if you see a copy of the syllabus with a more up-to-date date, that means I've updated it. What I've decided to do this semester is, instead of filling in the due dates, I'm going to fill them in 1 week at a time. So if you choose to print a copy of the syllabus, you can fill in the due date in pencil, or I'm going to update it and post it after every night that we're in here, so that you'll see the due date of assignment A, which is going to be due next Thursday, but I always give you a bonus day before I start counting it late. So if you try assignment A and you come in next Thursday and you have questions, I'll go over those questions, and you'll have 1 more day till Friday to go ahead and submit it before I count it late on the following Saturday. So I'm going to go ahead and say this one will be due August 30th with a free day after that. So the free day is implied. So if I say the 30th, you technically have until the 31st to turn it in on time. I just like to give you that 1 day of padding. So follow this syllabus. There are the dates of the quizzes posted by this day, take by that time, and I'm going to have them turned on at like 8 in the morning, and they'll be on until 10 p.m. Tuesday night. That way, when the next Thursday rolls around, if everybody's taken it, I can cover any questions you have on the quiz the following Thursday. So we'll cover assignments A and B in the first 2 weeks. Then you'll take the quiz, which will cover existing plans, exterior walls, foundations, footings, and wall heights, which are the first 2 assignments. They'll be in quiz number 1, and so on. Then at the end of the semester, we'll have a final exam, which is just like a long quiz. The other thing to pay attention to is in the syllabus, I'm telling you what you need to submit. So for the first one, you're going to submit your Revit project file, which is a .rbt file. Again, I'm going to talk about that tonight. And you're going to submit some screenshots, which will be like JPEGs. And those will all get attached and submitted to the Blackboard, and then I'll download them and grade them from there. So I'm going to go over a lot tonight on Assignment A. And I try always to have a little time to have everybody work a little bit, but for the most part, our class time here being almost 3 hours, I'm almost taking up most of it demonstrating, answering questions, and at least helping you try some of it. And then you can work outside of class. And then my office hours are by appointment, normally before class. So if anybody, one or more people say, okay, I need you to come in before class next Thursday, I can be here at 6 or 6:30 or depending on how many emails I get. But make sure and email me if you want me to come in early to work with you before the next class. Now I'm available to do that optionally every week if I get requests. Otherwise, I'm not going to necessarily be here a lot early, but I will be if needed. That makes sense. So there's the syllabus, and then I also try to list the concepts, and this is just how many concepts we cover in these sessions. But each one is more or less focusing on just a couple of issues. And I don't use a textbook because when I started this class, none of the textbooks covered all of the basics that I really wanted to cover, like site work and phases. And I've been planning to write my own textbook for years now, and I've done these handouts, and one of these days I'm going to get the time to sequester myself and actually do a textbook because I've been in touch with a publisher. But for now, my handouts, most of them can be printed 11 by 17, some of them are 8.5 by 11. If you can't print them, and they really limit the printing in this room, but there's an upstairs printer in the architectural studio. The library has a printer. You can go to FedEx office and print. Or if you don't need it printed, just pull it up on the screen. Some people like to have it in a binder. I've gotten to where I don't even do that anymore, so it's up to you. But there's not an actual textbook. There's Help, which is now WikiHelp. It's an online access that Revit gives you. So I try to supplement it with my reading handouts as well. And then there's this other document, the information, that is just kind of the necessary course information, not specific to what we do each week, but just the general stuff. So I went ahead and downloaded that down to the network here, and that one I'll just run through kind of quickly. Learning objectives, attendance, it's really important. If you can make it to every class, you'll learn more, obviously. What I usually try to do is I start everybody with a 10 out of 10 on attendance, and if you miss more than one session, I start to dock you half a point for every session. But really, there's extra credit opportunity. So if you come every week and you do the assignments every week, you'll be in good shape on the grade. I do 90 to 100 is an A, 80 to 90 is a B, and so on. And I mentioned USB drives. It's really probably better to have two. I bought one that was a really good one with aircraft aluminum housing and everything, and it stopped working. So even if you think you have a really good USB drive, you better have a second one just in case one fails on you. The lab, and then there's some other kind of standard information that Merrimack wants to make sure we give to you about ADA and accessibility, and if you have any special issues that you need me to accommodate, just come and talk to me individually or email me or whatever. And then academic honesty, I've never really had anybody cheat in this class, but I had somebody try to cheat in my AutoCAD class years ago. And what he didn't know is that I was all-knowing, and I found that he had copied somebody else's file. So we're kind of on an honor system here. And you can actually see other people's files, so make sure that you're saving in your folder and not somebody else's folder while you're on campus by accident, because the student files are all right there for any of us to see. And sometimes you'll have a name right next to somebody else and accidentally save into their folder. And one guy said, "Where's all my stuff?" And then he realized he'd been saving it in his neighbor's folder. So try to be careful about that. You're welcome to put subfolders under there. Like if you want to make, like this is my HD Smith folder, I could make a subfolder for assignment A, assignment B. But every time you start a new assignment, you want to have a house B or house C. That doesn't mean that if you aren't done with A, you can't go back to A. But where it gets a little dicey is if you fall behind, then you want to make sure that the current file has all the stuff from the previous assignments. So if you get into a point where you're kind of caught, let me know. But otherwise, just try to work on assignment A. When it's finished, we'll start B. And if you want to work with me in class on kind of a test copy, then sometimes I'll save it and say this is assignment B in class test.Revit, and then I'll as a student, you could work in that file, and when you're done, then you could come back in the lab on your own and start fresh and say, now I'm going to really do assignment B from start to finish. And the one that I kind of worked along with Haden was just a trial, if that makes sense. That way you can have a chance to work with me, but then start over, watch the video, and say, now I'm going to do step 1, step 2. And even though my handouts are very kind of step by step, there's a lot of different ways to skin the cat in Revit, just like other things. But there are better ways and not as good ways. So, and some of them are just equally good. So I'll talk as much as I can about all those options as we go. Any questions so far? You know, it's probably hard to know what to ask yet, but we'll get there. So before we take a break in 10 minutes here, and by the way, I just got back in town after vacation, and I got sick when I got back, so I think there was a guy coughing on the plane on the way back from Mexico that gave me something. I avoided the water in Mexico and didn't get sick, and then I had to catch a cold from somebody on the plane. So if I sound funny, I'm going to try to stop and get a drink here in a little bit. But so that's, let's see, what else on the blackboard do I need to cover? Instructor information, there's a bad photo of me. Assignments. So each week there's a folder called Project Assignments. This is where the actual handouts are going to be. I've already downloaded the ones for tonight and next week. If you go to Assignment Handouts, actually just tonight, this Assignment A handout, Walls, and I usually have the version of Revit. So if you notice, since I've been doing this for about 5 years now, and these handouts have to be updated every year that they come out with a new version of Revit. And since it takes me a lot of hours to put these together, occasionally I'll run across one of my handouts that has some outdated screenshots because they changed it on me. So if the file doesn't say 2012, it might be older. And so if you find something, you say, Hayden, why does it show that little button when the button looks different in Revit? Point it out to me. And you can help me kind of remember to correct these things. It's just a challenge to keep on top of everything. And sometimes it'll be obvious to you and you can figure it out, but if it's at all confusing and you want to point it out to me, I welcome that so that I can make sure everybody knows that the picture looks a little bit different. What else? So if you open Project Assignments, it's a folder on the blackboard. There'll be a folder for each assignment. If you click on Assignment A, you can do that with me now. And there's the handout. And I've already got that downloaded, but if you click on it on the blackboard, it'll open it up in a window like that. And then it starts showing you how to make our new file. This is the one time to start the semester we're going to start from scratch using my template. And then you're going to go through the various steps. And at the bottom it tells you how to submit your Revit file and a bunch of screenshots that show what it looks like on the screen. And then this other place on each of the assignment folders, Assignment A Rubric and Submittal. This is where you're actually going to submit your file. So you click on that to send me what you've done, but there's also this Excel file that you can download. And I'll go ahead and download the first one here onto the network. Assignment Rubrics. And what this is, it is a little chart that tells you what you need to complete to get 100% on the assignment, or sometimes more than 100%. So let me just go to Assignment Rubrics, Assignment A grade, and I'll show you what this little grading rubric looks like. So now the reason this one is structured the way it is a couple of years ago I started to write an automatic routine to grade this stuff, where it would look for so many walls, look at what kind of wall, what height of each wall, and they changed that on me, and I basically had to kind of back that whole idea. So when I said the number of points available, number of elements, you have to have 9 walls of that type. I actually had a way that it would calculate how many points you got. But suffice it to say, if you add up the possible points, you'll see how many you can get. And if you don't have brick on the exterior here, then you're going to lose 0.4 points. If you don't have this one little layer of 1-inch plaster, you're going to lose 0.4 points, and so on, and this is how I score it. So the idea is that you do the assignment, then you look at this, and you try kind of reviewing it so that you make sure you didn't miss crossing a T or dotting an I. or dotting a T and crossing an I. And that's painful to cross your eyes. So anyway, that's the last of what's on here, I think. And then the recorded sessions. So if you go to the recorded sessions, come on. It's a little bit slow tonight. You'll see a list of links that are basically going to take you to YouTube. Because I upload all these videos to YouTube, and then this will have a link that will take you to. If you click on that, it opens up a separate window on YouTube, and then it starts playing. And this was the one from the summer, I think, June 5th of this year. And it's just me talking about what I'm talking about now, so this is kind of like looking in the mirror at yourself in the mirror, but that's there, and some people find those to be really helpful. So feel free to remind me if I forget to post it on YouTube a couple days later. You can email me and say, Hayden, I was looking for your video from last night or 2 nights ago. It's not there. Please let me know when it's there, and I'll email you. So that's about it. And I think this is a good time to break. And then I'm going to start talking about these reading handouts about what the interface in Revit looks like and what files look like in Revit. And so we'll come back in about 15 minutes or so, and we'll dive into there. I'm going to get a quick drink, then I can answer any questions. Any general questions before we break? Okay, thanks.
Well, what, that?
No, just over there.
Turn off that first recording.
I received an email from you.
Okay.
Did you send them out today?
Yeah, it was this morning about 8:30 or so.
Okay. Well, I really didn't do much on the computer today.
Okay.
You know.
Okay. Go ahead and send me an email and then mention that you didn't get it. And that way maybe I had something wrong on your, I got it off of Merrimack's listing, but sometimes there's a typo in there, so
Okay,
I'm going to send a new one too, and I'll make sure you get it.
send it to you tomorrow.
Yeah, whenever you get it, as soon as you get a chance, and then I'll forward the same message back.
And if we have to come in and work back there, what time does that stay open?
The hours are posted there, and I also have them on the blackboard listed. It's like 9 to 10 p.m., 8 to 10 p.m., 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. On Fridays, they close at 4:30, and Saturday, 9 to 3.